Heidi that made up for the music.
Good, I'm glad. Welcome everyone to today's presentation, our community education and philanthropy, moving forward through education. Today's presentation will be hosted by my colleague, Faun White, who's the Strategic Philanthropy Program Officer of Education. Before we begin today's presentation, I just want to cover some housekeeping information for you. The flow will be, we'll do the introduction of Fawn in a moment, and then she'll get into today's featured presentation, the education and philanthropy, followed by a Q&A period, and then some short announcements. So if you have any questions at all during today's presentation, please post them in the chat box. We'll be pulling questions from the chat box during the Q&A period. The webinar will be recorded, and the presentation and the recording will be emailed out after the webinar. There will also be a survey that will be emailed out after the webinar, and we invite you to take the survey because we really use your feedback to shape future webinars. And we ask that you remain muted during the presentation. And then also please turn off your camera if you're not speaking, especially if you're having any difficulties with connections. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Faun White. So Faun brings more than 20 years of experience in corporate communications in the areas of marketing, community relations, public affairs, community outreach, and philanthropy. She is part of the Strategic Philanthropy team who serves as a program officer for education. Faun is responsible for recommending funding and managing relationships with local school districts, K-12 schools, public, private, and charter, community colleges, four-year universities, including tribal colleges and universities and nonprofit organizations. Faun has the pleasure of working with the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools, San Bernardino City Unified School District, San Bernardino Valley College, Crafton Hills College, California State University, San Bernardino, University of California, Riverside, and many more schools and organizations that are part of her education portfolio. Faun grew up in the city of San Bernardino, attending public schools K-12. After high school, she earned an Associate of Arts degree in Communication Studies from San Bernardino Valley College and obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree in Communications from California State University, San Bernardino. Faun is an alum of the Tribal Administration Certification Program at Claremont Graduate University. She is very passionate about her work in philanthropy and is truly honored to be in a position to help students of all ages benefit from education programs in the Inland Empire and community at large. I'd like to welcome Faun to the virtual stage now.
Thank you, Heidi. And thank you to everyone that is able to attend today's Moving Forward Through Education webinar. Today, I will share information about the tribe and their philanthropic efforts in the region, highlighting our education priorities and pillars, and discussing the application process pertaining to our charitable giving program. The last part of the webinar, I will answer questions specifically related to education giving. Before I get started, I wanted to say thank you to all of you that participated recently in an education survey that gave more insight as to what you wanted to hear during my education presentation. Some of you wanted to know more about the tribe, some wanted to know about our giving priorities, and there was particular interest in the application process. So this is why I'm taking the time to share this information with you today. First, I'd like to talk about the tribe and their philanthropic efforts. In 1891, the Act of Relief for Mission Indians was passed that recognized the San Manuel Tribe with rights to self-govern as a sovereign nation. The San Manuel Tribe, the name comes from a Yahaviatam leader known by his Spanish name of Santos Manuel. The tribe operates San Manuel Casino, generating revenue for the tribal government and supporting neighboring communities as one of the largest employers in the Inland Empire. To date, there are more than 4,000 employees on behalf of San Manuel that are employed by San Manuel. San Manuel puts their tribal community and neighboring communities at the center of their mission. And because of the revenue generated through businesses and partnerships, it goes back to support tribal operations, the local community, and tribal nations who do not engage in gaming. To learn more about the tribe, please visit the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians website at www.sanmanuel-nsn.gov. Moving on to our philanthropic efforts, the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians has supported more than 1,000 organizations since 2003. The tribe has made monetary contributions to nonprofits in the Inland Empire, Native-led organizations, and tribal governments nationwide since this time. Our giving is focused on 4 key areas that we now refer to as our giving pillars. These include education, called Inspiring Our Future Through Education, also economic development, called Empowering Lives. We also support health, called Reinforcing Healthy and Resilient Communities, and special projects focusing on preserving cultural traditions and empowering Indian country. San Manuel has a strong commitment to give by supporting education, self-determination for all, community development, primarily in the tribe's ancestral territory, and focus on the development of opportunities for Native nations across the country. You may ask why the tribe gives. The tribe's cultural values require that we interact with respect and humility and continue to honor the vision of past leaders by supporting the surrounding communities and Indian country nationwide. By doing this, we honor the spirit of Yahweh each and every day to act on one's belief through the charitable giving program, making contributions to our region and beyond. This work is done through the Strategic Philanthropy Department, which consists of 5 staff members, including a department manager who oversees day-to-day operations in the Strategic Philanthropy Department, a program officer for education, myself, who handles all education-related projects, including K-12 schools, community colleges, 4-year institutions, and nonprofits, a program officer for health, who handles health-related projects, including hospitals and healthcare organizations, a program associate for special projects, who handles culture and arts-related items, and our operations specialist, who helps with the intake of applications, approval letters, checks, and overall assisting the department to help keep us running smoothly. Now that I've covered information about the tribe and their giving efforts, I wanted to share some of the things that have been happening in education since the pandemic. Since March 2020, schools have transitioned online full-time, and some of the things that are impacting education include the technology gap. In June 2020, there was a need in California for at least 708,000 laptops and 322,000 Wi-Fi hotspots to connect all students to the internet from home. Since then, local school districts have taken action to provide students with the necessary technology devices to participate in online learning. In February 2021, this month, the California State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Tony Thurman, states that more than $1 million is still needed for internet connection for California schools. In addition, because students are not logging into their computers, many of them are falling behind in getting D's and F's in school. Local school districts are hosting grading summits and conducting community engagement to reach out to students to help them raise their grades. For community colleges, some are experiencing a 30% decrease in enrollment nationwide, and some California colleges are experiencing up to a 20% drop in enrollment. For food insecurity, before COVID-19, 40% of community college students experience very low or unstable access to food, and those with food pantries say they are seeing an increase in the amount of food being requested. For homelessness, some of these students are experiencing a loss of income and a loss of home, leaving the need to depend on emergency assistance from their community colleges for housing. We're also hearing that mental health, students are experiencing mental health issues. In fall 2020, there was an article that stated colleges anticipated the issues of isolation and depression as students returned to mostly online classes. Since the pandemic, campus counseling centers across California brace for a sharp rise in the number of students seeking mental health services, where most therapy sessions took place online or by phone, A survey showed that 1 out of 3 college students were experiencing some major depressive or anxiety disorder, giving campuses an opportunity to provide counseling services to help deal with these issues. Most local schools have decided to extend online learning through June of 2021, expecting to reopen in fall 2021. But some of you may have seen on the news that some of the schools are actually reopening as of now, but they're developing plans to do so. For both CSU and UC systems, they announced plans to reopen their campuses by fall of 2021, and that all school systems have experienced some kind of effect from the state of California budget. The tribe is aware of what is happening in the education space and continue to work with our education partners to overcome some of the challenges they face due to COVID-19. Another area I wanted to cover is our new education pillar called Inspiring Our Future Through Education, where we support programs that support pathways to a better future through education. Our funding areas include STEM programs, where we support programs related to science, technology, engineering, and math. For example, we support the Girl Scouts of San California, who expose young girls in the community to STEM careers and professionals working in these particular fields. Another area the tribe supports is after-school programming, like Think Together, who provide meaningful academic and enrichment activities to K-12 students, helping to keep kids safe, providing homework support and dynamic learning time while helping working families. We also support scholarship programs like Making Hope Happen Foundation, a scholarship program helping to remove financial barriers so deserving young adults can pursue the college education or technical training they will need for a quality career. Another area of focus is college access programming like AVID, that is designed to help underachieving students with high academic potential prepare for entrance to colleges and universities. This program is geared to support middle to high schoolers with an interest in going to college. We also support career readiness programs. An example is Sherman Indian High School, their Career Technical Education or CTE Pathways program. The tribe is a major supporter of this program, for approximately 400 Native students attending Sherman Indian are able to participate in 7 different pathways to receive certification to get a job after high school or even go on to pursue higher education in specific fields. The CTE pathways include health sciences and careers, computer sciences, public service, hospitality, tourism and recreation, construction with energy conservation, agriculture and natural resources, and auto technology. Last but not least, the tribe focuses on community-based arts and programming. This is another area that we fund. For example, the San Bernardino Symphony. The tribe supports their holiday, student, and family concert series, where students attending San Bernardino City Unified Schools are able to go and experience quality music productions. Now that you're aware of our priority areas, I'd like to discuss the application process. Next slide. Thank you, Heidi. Keep in mind the information I'm about to share is a refresher for those that are already familiar with the process, but also to inform those that are seeking funding from the tribe for the very first time. For those of you that have been online, you may have already seen information pertaining to our funding cycle. So this is a kind reminder that our online applications must be submitted between February 1st through April 30th of 2021, and that it is best to submit your application sooner than the April 30th deadline. Please note that the application link will not be accessible after April 30th. And remember that only one organization, including schools, can apply per calendar year. For schools and colleges, you should provide a principal or president letter, quotes or bids if you plan to purchase any item, and an updated W-9 for our accounting office to have on file. Once you submit your information, applications will be assigned to me as your program officer. And then once received, I will review all applications, and then I will schedule a phone interview Usually we schedule site visits or meetings with you to discuss the application, but this totally depends on COVID-19. So phone interviews will be conducted until things return to normal. After our discussion, recommendations are presented to leadership and the business committee. Please be mindful that our grant review will be May 1st through June 30th. The award notification will be July 1st through July 31st, and the grant period will be August 1st, 2021 through August 1st of 2022. If the application is approved, I will call to notify the organization by phone. An approval letter will be sent by email with the formal letter attached. The donation check will be sent by mail directly from our accounting departments. The letter and check should be sent to your organization within a 4-week period. If your application is not approved, your organization will receive notification by email as well. If you are not approved, do not get discouraged and plan to reapply next year. Moving on to reporting. If you are approved for funding, no report is due for any donation that is $5,000 or below. For grants above this amount, you will be required to submit 2 reports, one at 6 months and one at 12 months, according to the date of the approval letter. For the 6-month check-in report, this is a quick check-in with our office to let us know how things are going with the grant. On this report, we want to know how much of the grant you have spent. Are you on target to spend all of the funding? Have there been any significant changes in expenses or changes in staffing or organizational changes in the last 6 months? And then also if there's any additional information that you would like to share regarding the grant. There's also a section to provide a photo and story of students so we can share on social media. The tribe, we look for stories to share so that we can share what's happening, really good things happening out in the community at large. For the 12-month end-of-year report, these are due 1 year after the date of the letter. In this report, we want to know if there's any significant changes during the grant period, including staff, location, changes in funding, including revenue or expenses. Also, if there's any progress made on your goals and objectives, the number of people served, the actual number of people served. You'll want to highlight your accomplishments and outcomes for your efforts. Reference any impact on the community. We want to know about your successes and challenges for the year. Also about learning and future plans and how you will support these plans. And then if there's any additional information, there's a section for media, also to provide a photo and story of people benefiting from the grant. If you provide a photo, be sure to add a caption of the photo. Speaking about reporting, I would also like to cover do's and don'ts of reporting. So for the do's, it is key to provide new contact information so email notifications go to the correct person to submit reports on time. I have seen before, there's sometimes changes in leadership, but the new person that comes into your office, just make sure we're updated so that the new person that is responsible for handling the report gets that information on time. For another do, expect email communication regarding the submission of your report at least 14 days prior to the due date. And then also complete both reports in each section completely. Reflect upon the information provided from attachment A, the form that's in the beginning of the grant. And then one tip that I have is, once you complete the report, maybe have someone else within your organization review the report before you submit to the tribe. And then also be sure to submit a budget so we know how the funds were spent, and be sure to reference other funders that supported the project. One other thing about reporting, give your program officer, in this case me, at least 2 weeks to respond regarding the report. If I have any questions, I will reach out to you directly. But if there are no questions about the check-in report, expect to receive notification by email that your report has been closed in the system. For the don'ts, do not submit a report without receiving instructions via email. Do not leave any section blank on either the 6-month or 12-month report. Do not copy and paste information from one section to another. Each section has its own header and specific questions that should be answered separately. And then also do not submit a new application until you speak to your program officer. Some of you may already be aware of the reporting process, but for those of you that have not submitted this kind of information to the tribe, we wanted to give you more insight as to our expectations regarding reporting. Next slide. So some of the key takeaways from today's presentation about the tribe and our philanthropy. The Seminole Band Mission Indians is one of the largest employers in the Inland Empire and supports numerous nonprofit organizations locally and Native-led groups nationwide. For our pillars, the new education pillar showcases specific focus areas that are important to the tribe. For our application process, this is still a reminder that our application cycle ends April 30th, 2021, and to submit your application sooner than later. For reporting, if you are approved for funding, you must submit your report on a 6 and 12-month basis. Be sure all sections of the report are complete and coincide with your attachment A, referencing your goals and outcomes of the grant. For more information about the Charitable Giving Program, visit us anytime at seminolecares.org for our guidelines and information. Now I will pass along to my coworker, Gina, who will assist with Q&A.
Thank you, Fawn, and thanks for all that great information. I think it was good to hear about the changes made to the education pillar. So I wanted to start with a question. If I'm an organization or school, am I able to apply for, excuse me, am I able to apply for more than one program?
Okay. Thank you, Gina, for the question. So if you are representing a school, K through 12 or school or college, we highly recommend that you submit for one program. What I would do is, if you have questions about this program or another, maybe we should have a conversation before you submit your application to the tribe.
Thank you, Fawn. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button.
Oh.
We have one question here in the chat. If you are a past recipient of funding, but you have not received your email to report for your past funding, can you still apply this year?
If you have not received the information for the reporting?
Yes.
Okay.
So it looks like, yeah.
It looks like, say again?
It looks like they may have not yet received their email to complete their report yet. So they want to know if they can still apply or should they wait?
Right. So like I said during the presentation, you should submit the report first. And then once I review the information, usually I reach out to you to have that conversation before you submit your application, online by April 30th. I know that there's some organizations in the system that have reports that are due by March 5th. So you should receive something via email. If you haven't received it as of yet, then I would just reach out to our operations specialist, just to get that information into us on time.
Thank you. Another question, if I'm not approved for funding, what action should I take before the next funding cycle?
Right, so if you are not approved for funding, I would definitely reach out, just to kind of have the conversation. I know this last year, based from 2010, there were some impacts that we had, on our budget as well. So we implemented a more competitive process this time around, or this past time. So the program that you submitted for, if you were not approved, I would definitely just reach out, have the conversation, maybe talk about things that we saw in the application, and then help to move forward. But I would definitely, submit your application by April 30th of this year.
Thank you, Fawn. Another question, if I'm a school and looking to for new playground equipment or any type of, something to improve the school, are those considered, or do you prefer academic-based programs?
Yes, thank you for that question. So if you can, in your spare time, just refer back to the education section and then specifically look at the pillar information. If like the playground equipment or whatever items that you need for the school, if it doesn't actually fit the pillars, then I would not submit that kind of application to the tribe. One thing I do not want to happen is for you to go through, to take all this time to complete this application and submit it to us. But just to be sure, check the guidelines online. If you do not align with the charitable giving, the pillars, that information that I provided, then I would not submit for like a playground, but focus more on the academic side.
Thank you, Fawn. We do have another question. Does the program funding year start when the funding is approved? So would that be August to August?
Yes. So like I stated in the presentation, if you are approved for funding this year, the grant period would be 1 full year, so 12 months. So it would start August 1st, 2021 through August 1st of 2022. That would be considered your full grant year.
All right. I don't see any more questions in the chat box. Did you want to touch on anything else, Fawn, while you're here?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you again to everyone for joining in or listening in on the webinar. Hopefully you learn more information about the tribe and our education priority areas. But I would just say, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email or to call me directly. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you before you submit your application to the tribe.
We did get one more, if you want to answer that really quick. So I think this is from the same person who had the grant term question. Would you not be eligible to apply in April 2022? I guess if you're approved this year, when will you be eligible to reapply?
Right. So technically speaking, if you submit your application this year by April 30th, if the grant is approved and the grant period ends April or August 1st of 2022, you would have to submit your reporting information, and then technically you should be eligible to apply for the following timeline. So that would be February 1, 2023.
Okay, we got a couple more questions. How much should I apply for it if it's my first time applying? And then, or you can go ahead and answer that one, then I'll ask the second one.
Okay, so usually if it is your first time applying for funding from the tribe, we suggest that you apply for 5,000 or below grant. And then what was the second question?
Is it okay to go from a $10,000 request to a $100,000 request?
Wow. So usually, thank you for the question. Usually the tribe, we like to monitor the program, and usually funds increase over time. So I would say if your last grant was $10,000, do not submit for 100,000. Usually the tribe, we like to take baby steps, and we'd like to see that your program is growing and that you're hitting your mark, like whatever goals and outcomes that you state in your previous application. We just want to make sure the program is successful, and then you're encouraged over time to solicit for additional dollars. But definitely you do not go from like 10,000 to 100,000. Usually that's not the case.
All right. Let's see. What type of collaboration does Manuel like to see amongst education partners? Do you look at these?
Collaborations. So usually when I'm reviewing a grant, usually the tribe, they want to see that there's other funders coming to the table in support of a project. So if it's a local school, you know, we just want to see that there's other funders out in the community, maybe like a local community foundation that's coming to the table, you know, to support the project as well. So the tribe, usually we do not want to be like the sole funder of a project. They usually like to see diversified funding for whatever project that's being, you know, requested.
Thank you, Fawn. Let's see, we got one more. Our first grant was $5,000 and did not require reporting. To communicate how we manage the funds, would the process be to refer to how the funds were used in the next application?
How the funds are used in the next application?
Yes. So they got a $5,000 grant and no formal reporting was required. So should they communicate how they manage the funds in the next application that they submit?
I would say if you're submitting for the same program, then you would want to highlight your accomplishments in the next application. I think that kind of information would be really good to share.
All right. I don't see any other questions. Do we want to move on to the announcements? Okay. So for our announcements, we want to let you know that our next department webinar is scheduled for March 17th at 10 a.m. And the topic will be tips and tricks to create an impactful grant proposal. The flyer will be going out within the next couple of weeks. So please make sure you register once you get that. We also want to just, let you know again, our grant cycle is open right now. It opened February 1st. You have through April 30th to apply. If you have any questions, you can visit our website, SeminoleCares.org, for the contact information. And also, as Fawn mentioned earlier, we will have a survey that will go out after today's webinar, and we would like to have you complete the survey. This lets us know how we're doing with our webinars, and then also we want to get your feedback and make sure we're presenting information that you guys want to hear. And I think that's it for us. And we want to thank you for joining us this morning and learning more about the education pillar and more about Fawn White. And yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed today's presentation. Thank you.